Right, Buddy here from Backroad Buddies of Redtail Lodge. And what we want to share with you today is all the accessories that we use with all of our different cameras. Now, we had a previous post or video that has all the different cameras we use and why we use each one and when. So this video is just about all the additional accessories we use with them, and we'll try to explain when we use which accessories and why we have them. Hopefully the noise isn't too bad. We've got 4 adults in this household trying to work from home at the same time during COVID, so hopefully the background noise won't be too bad. So I'll start with our iPhones, the accessories we use with our iPhones. Now, first of all, we use protective cases. I use an Otterbox on my iPhone. Left Buddy uses, I think it's called a Casetify Impact case. So if you want links to all of these items, you can go to our gear page on our website, which is redtaillodge.com/gear. And there's actually links to the top that'll take you right to the photo and video section, and that's where most of these accessories will be. So I use an Otterbox. I drop my phone a lot. I haven't had any issues with damaging my phone at all, and I drop my phone quite a bit. In addition, I also use a PopSocket, and they're really popular. Most kids have them, so if you haven't seen one before, it's just a little thing that pops out, and then you can hold it in your hand. So this makes it nice to do one-handed photos or videos. I can reach over a fence or over a cliff and not worry about fumbling and dropping my phone, which I seem to do a lot. And just for added security, the PopSocket just kind of sticks to the case and it can release. So in order to make it a little more secure, I put a piece of 3M VHB tape on there, so that PopSocket's not coming off of there at all. So I can feel pretty secure about that. And then, in addition, when we're doing like van tours or some of the videos we have of some of our modification projects where we're building something and I want to get some video footage where I'm walking around a lot. I'm trying to get down at some different angles and into small places. I actually use this handheld gimbal. I don't know how you pronounce it. It's like Zhiyun or something. And how this works, let's see. I'm going to have to cut you over to my Canon mic here because I was using my phone. Because I have to, in order to put this in the gimbal. So we use the gimbal with our iPhones. Let's see if I can do this real quick. Oh, I didn't check to see if this thing was charged. We'll see. So it kind of pops out here. Let's see if it'll... So if you notice, there's a couple different modes, so you can there's some controls on the back here so you can get some different angles. But if you notice it if you move really quickly, the camera lags behind, so it gives you a nice smooth video instead of something jerky if you're doing a lot. Plus it'll keep it level so then you can reach down low and the camera angle, you can control the camera angle. So that's really nice for that. It also comes with this little tripod you can attach to the bottom so you can kind of set it up stationary. I rarely use that. If I'm going to use the gimbal, it's because I'm walking around and I want smooth video. It's a little big and bulky, so I don't take it on hikes. So if I'm shooting video with my phone or my Canon, I just do handheld. I don't take the gimbal with me. So let's turn that back off. And there's a little app on your phone that kind of helps the gimbal and the phone coordinate together. So you can, there's some fancy features on there that I haven't really used yet, but I may learn how to use. Like, if you've ever heard of focus pull, where you can focus on one object, and then using like this dial, if you have things set up, you can change, you know, move the focus from a close-up object to something way in the back or vice versa. That's called focus pull. But I haven't played around with a lot of those features. So let's get, hopefully this is better sound off of the iPhone. So that's pretty much all the accessories we use with the iPhones. Then moving over to the GoPros, we have two different GoPro cameras. We bought this MCOCEAN GoPro accessory kit, and it comes with a whole bunch of little stuff, but we don't use everything in there, but there are some things we use. They come with all these little mounting plates. So we've used, and they use 3M VHB tape as well. That's very good, strong tape. So we have one of these in the dash of our van. Sorry about that, the camera battery died, so we have to switch batteries real quick. So yeah, we use the mounting plate in the dash of the van, and it sits right on top of the dash. I'll show a picture right here. We're not necessarily real happy with that situation because that dash in our van gets really hot up there. So the GoPro camera will actually only operate, I don't know, a few minutes before it overheats and shuts itself off. So we'll probably, for season 3, try to come up with a better place to mount that for doing GoPro shots out the dash or out the windshield of the van. Then we also have a whole bunch of different body straps. There's one that goes on the head, another one that goes on the wrist, so then you can, I don't know if you need to see this, but will go on the wrist and you can use that. And then this one actually is a chest strap. Let's see if I can figure out real quick for you here. It's all kind of tangled up. So this goes on like this. You can have it down or up, and the GoPro session slips right in there. And I didn't bring the GoPro session up here, but so it just slips right here, and then you can shoot from there. We actually like the body strap the best out of the 3, so we'll use these if we're kayaking or riding our bike and we want some video as we're riding along. So if we're riding a bike, we don't have our hands free, so it's nice to do one of the mounts. And for the kayaking, we don't want to take our iPhones and Canon cameras with us because we don't want to get them wet. So the session actually is waterproof. I believe it'll actually go underwater, but we haven't used it that way yet. And so that's where the body straps really come in handy. So we can take that while we're being active and still shoot some video. We found we like the body strap the best, and that's because you move your body less. Yes, it's a little bit of a pain if, you know, you're kayaking here and what you want to film is over this direction. You have to turn your whole body as opposed to just your head or your wrist. But we find it results in a much smoother video, because if we have our head or our hand, we have a tendency to move that, you know, we're like, oh, look over here, and you know, we move too fast with the head and the wrist. Although it does provide some nice alternative camera angles that might be interesting. So we might still use them every now and then, but we'll probably mainly use the chest strap because we like how smooth it is. We've also tried on our bikes mounting it right to the bike. However, we have hybrid bikes that have no shock absorbers on them. So the video's okay when you're on pavement, and even then you get quite a bit of jitter. But you get on dirt or gravel or something, and the video is just, even with image stabilization, is just way too jerky to be comfortable. So we don't attach it directly to the bike anymore. So in a sense, we use our body as a shock absorber. Our arms and legs are absorbing the vibration of the bike, and you get a smoother video with the chest strap. So that's all the straps. Some of the other things in the kit, it did come with this little flexible tripod. We find it's not very good. It doesn't really hold well. It kind of flops around. So we don't use that. Instead, we bought a Joby flexible tripod. And so this is a pretty sturdy tripod. It does pretty well. Plus the flexible legs allow you to grip it onto something like a railing or a tree branch or something, depending where you are. And this is small enough of a tripod. We will sometimes take this on hikes with us. Now, what you also see on here is we have a setup. So when we want to get good audio, the built-in mics of the GoPros and the iPhones and the Canons, they do okay, but if there's a lot of noise or wind, they don't do so well. So we actually bought this shotgun mic, and it has a, if I can figure out how to pop it off. So this is what's called a dead cat. Let's see if we can get you a better view. This is the shotgun mic, and this is called a dead cat or wind muff, but these, if you've probably seen them before, even if you're not familiar with them, they actually help with wind noise, to muffle that wind noise. Now, if you see here, we have our GoPro Hero Black on here. So we use this setup, I think when we were doing some of the 60 seconds of Serenity videos, and we also did Chat with Ranger Kenzie, where we wanted good audio. So we have this GoPro, and in order to get this external mic with us, Left Buddy rigged up just this metal bracket so he can mount the GoPro to one end. We mount the mic to the other end, and so the mic sits behind the lens of the camera, so you don't get the view of the mic in the shot. And so that's what we use if we want good high quality sound with our video. We sometimes take this along with hikes, but not a lot. So we'll see, maybe in the future we might use that some more, because if you notice, most of our videos have music with them because we don't have good sound in our videos. So that's why we use a lot of music. So let's see, moving along. So then carrying stuff. Now, if you watched the previous video on our different cameras, I initially shot most of the still pictures with this Canon EOS Rebel. And so season 1, I carried this camera with me along with, well, 3 lenses total. So 2 extras just to give me different ranges and different types of lenses. And this is the setup of how I carried it. So there's a Case Logic camera bag here. And then I have 2 Promaster Deluxe lens cases. And this would just, I would wear around my waist. So let's see if I can show you how that goes. As you notice, it's not too troublesome to get on. So I have my lenses and my camera, so I need to take a shot. I can actually pull that out pretty quick, as when I'm hiking. And if I'm riding a bike, I'll actually move this around to the back, so when I'm bent over with the bike, it's not in my way of pedaling or whatever. And then if I want to stop and take a picture, I just quickly spin it around. Thing I had to be careful was this long neck strap. I actually managed, don't ask me how, we were on a steep trail. I actually caught my foot real quickly on that strap, so that could have been really dangerous. Now, if you notice, I'll see if I can show you. So I actually would wear this in addition to my hiking backpack. And the waist strap of the backpack just kind of went underneath the camera bag straps. And so that's how I went down the trail. Now, it was made that a little cumbersome. We want to stop, take our packs off. To take this off, or if you need to go to the bathroom, right? Take the pack off, and then take this bag off too was kind of cumbersome, so I'd actually leave this on most of the time and rarely took it off until I was done for the day. Now, this whole setup here weighs about 5 pounds. So that's a significant amount of weight if you're hiking or backpacking. And for season 2, I actually switched cameras. And I switched to the PowerShot, which is what I'm shooting with here. And how I carried that actually was with this little Peak Design clip, if you can see it there. And so there's a plate on the bottom of the camera, and it slides right into here. Let's see, maybe we can switch cameras here, and I can show you what that looks like. So here's the PowerShot, and if you notice there's a little plate on the bottom there, and that hooks right into this little clip, and it locks in pretty good. It has a little, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but there's a little release knob, and so I can pull it right out. And so this is actually a one-handed operation. Pull it out, put it back in, and it locks. If there are cases where we're hiking along and I need my hands, like where it's a little bit of a scramble and I'm concerned that I might accidentally bump that release and the camera will fall out, you can actually turn it and it locks. So then the release button won't work and your camera's locked into place. So it's pretty secure. Now, let's go back to the other camera. So this works out pretty well. So I have one on my backpacking backpack on the left strap there. And then I also have one, I carry this little day pack sometimes when we're just walking around town or it's not really much of a hike. And so I ended up buying another clip for this pack. The reason I did that, you can actually remove these clips pretty easily. This has a little thumb screw and it pops up, and you can, move it over to another bag or something else you want to attach it to. However, the problem is that the thumb screws that come with the clip aren't very long. And so, but they work fine for a thin strap like this. But on my backpack, I have a pretty thick strap. And so you actually have to switch to a different mounting screw. And if you look here, this mounting screw is not a thumb screw anymore. It has to use an Allen wrench to loosen and tighten it. So at first I was trying to switch the clip from one pack to the other, but it meant using an Allen wrench, taking this off, switching out the mounting screws, and putting it on the other pack. So That's why I said, forget that. I switched between these way too often, so I ended up just having 2 clips. Now, see, I'm gonna have to switch cameras yet again. So, on the PowerShot here, I was telling you about the mounting plate. Now you can buy those Peak Design clips with or without the mounting plate. I bought both the clips without the plate because I actually also bought this wrist strap, or I think it's called a clutch strap. And let's see if I can. So it's really nice to have a real secure grip on the camera with such a short little strap, so I can, you know, lean over cliff edges or railings or whatever and not worry about dropping my camera. But the wrist strap is also by Peak Design, and it comes with the base plate. So you only need 1 base plate, and I leave it on the camera all the time. It's actually compatible with our tripod, so this stays on all the time. The disadvantage is that on the PowerShot, the battery and the SD card are underneath, or in this compartment in here, and this mounting plate blocks that. So I actually have to take the mounting plate off every time I want to pull out the SD card, which I do on a daily basis, and the battery whenever it dies, like I just did a few minutes ago. Now, if you notice, I have this nice little, what's called a D-ring mounting screw. And of course, since I'm videoing it and trying to do this one-handed, it's not cooperating. But yeah, so I can easily unscrew this with my fingers. The screw that came with the Peak Design mounting plate was actually this one here. And if you notice, you need an Allen wrench or a coin to operate this. So something I'm going to pull that out every day or more. To pull out an Allen wrench to do that is just a pain in the butt. So I went and bought these D-ring mounting screws, and that works out really well. Now that brings me to this tripod. So if I told you that that mounting plate fits this tripod, and this is the tripod we use when we are trying to shoot like these intros or do a time lapse, something where we're not on a hike, because even though this does actually collapse down, I'll show you a picture here, it actually collapsed down to about a foot tall and very easy to use and compact. So we could take it on hikes, but we generally don't. We normally take that Joby. But we use this when we're usually at a campsite or at home, and like I said, shooting intros or time lapses or someplace where we're not having to hike in a ways and carry it along with us. And we really, really like this setup. Okay, so another thing that I use, and this was more so with the old setup that I had. Let's see if I can pull it out. Okay, I pulled the right one. So I normally, on all my lenses, I put this is just a UV filter, which cuts out some of the UV light, but that's not mainly why I use it. I mainly use it to protect my lenses. So this just screws on. And now if I happen to accidentally bump this, I'm going to be scratching the filter, which is much cheaper to replace than the whole lens. I actually shattered one of these filters once I dropped the camera. It landed on the lens. The lens seemed to be okay, but the filter shattered, and it was just a matter of buying a new filter and putting that on there. So that'll help with your lenses. Some people like to do that, and some people say, hey, the chances of me scratching a lens are pretty slim, so they don't bother. But I put those on all of my lenses. So the other thing that I do is what SD card you use makes a difference. I don't know if you can see that or not, but the one I use is called SanDisk Extreme PRO. And why this matters is when you're doing burst mode. So if you see a wild animal, you know, moving along and you want to shoot off a whole bunch of pictures really quick to try to catch that right moment, how fast your camera can take those pictures is limited by how fast it can write the data to your SD card. So if the transfer rate of your SD card isn't that great, then it's going to slow down your ability to take a whole succession of pictures right in a row. So that's why I use a fast SD card in both my Canon cameras. The other thing, actually, if you've probably seen it a little bit, is this little pop voice lapel mic. I use this mainly for the intros, or if I'm doing the van tour. They're nice if someone's walking around. It's a better audio than what you get from the built-in mics on the cameras, but it's still not real great. I use this in combination, and if you see, I hooked it into my iPhone here, and I just use the voice memo app on the iPhone, and that's how I record it. Now this does require me to sync up the audio and video later because they're being recorded on two different devices. The video is being recorded on the Canon PowerShot right now, and the audio is on my iPhone. So I have to use software to help sync those up to get it into one video. We have noticed that if it's a noisy environment, the pop voice doesn't do very well. So even if I'm trying to shoot an intro in the van as we're driving down the road, there's enough noise and background noise in the van that the audio does not come out very well. So I've actually been considering hooking up this shotgun mic to the Canon PowerShot to do intros in a noisy environment, but I haven't tested that out yet. Hopefully I can use that same angle bracket to hook it up to my camera. So that's something I'll try to do in the future, but I haven't done so far because that shotgun mic will do a much better job than the little pop voice. But the pop voice is nice, especially if you have someone that's talking and they may be turning away from the camera or walking around and be out of the shot while you're shooting the video, that you won't lose the audio. It won't cut out or get soft because they're faced the other way or get too far from the camera. So that's where the pop voice does very well. And I actually have two of them in case we wanted to have a little interview or conversation with two people at once. Then you can put a pop voice mic on each person and be able to capture their voices pretty well. And so then moving along, I think the other thing, now we're getting into stuff that isn't really quite directly related to the cameras, and that's all this footage of video and audio and still pictures takes up a lot of space. And so I don't buy a whole bunch of SD cards and use them. I basically use one or two SD cards along with our iPhones, and every day I offload all the footage onto external hard drives on my laptop. So for each season, we found that 4 terabytes is plenty, and I have 2 external drives. So I copy it onto one external drive, and then I actually back it up to a second external drive. So I have 2 copies of it. And the reason for that is in case the hard drive fails, which hard drives eventually will fail, that I don't lose all my footage. So I have 2 copies on it. Once I've copied all the footage for the day on 2 different external hard drives, then I delete it off my phone or off the SD card in the Canons or the GoPros and clear those out and I'm ready for a new day. So that's what we do there. And then the other thing is the software we use. For editing still photos, I use Adobe Lightroom, and for video, I use Final Cut Pro, which is only available on a Mac. And I'll show you a little bit on the computer there what those look like. Okay, so this is the program called Adobe Lightroom Classic, which is the desktop application as part of Creative, I think it's called Creative Suite. And that's actually, I found the best way to purchase this program is I'm actually on a monthly subscription, which is called a photography plan. So it gives me access to not only Lightroom, but it also gives me access to Photoshop. Now, I don't use Photoshop very often. I mainly use Lightroom. I really like the flow of it, and I can edit a lot of pictures fairly quickly. So what I normally do is I import all my pictures, and if you look over here on the left-hand side, you'll see these are all the photos I've imported, and they're organized by date. You probably can't read that, but it's got the date that they were taken, and that's how I automatically import them. So they're organized by date, and then I'll add a little description of where we were that day. So it gives me an idea of what's in there, and I normally keep them organized that way. There's also other ways to help find things and select things. So down along here, there's a way of flagging them. So usually when I'm going through them the first time, I'll eliminate the photos that aren't any good. So there's like a flag with an X, and then I can, over here there's a filter, so then I can filter on that, select them all, and then delete them off the disk, because I don't need to have extra photos. I take way too many of them. And so, but if I want to like select some so I can export them, Lightroom doesn't change the original photo. It actually just keeps track of all your edits that you make to it. And then in order to get basically the edited photo, you have to do what they call is an export of the photo. So it makes a copy with all the edits applied to it. And so I'll, select them with the flag, or I can select them. There's also 1 to 5 stars I can put on there. You can also add the keywords to or tags, and all of that gets stored with the metadata of the photo. So you can filter on all that stuff. Initially, I was adding a lot of keywords or tags to the photos, but I take way too many photos, and that just takes a whole lot of time. So I find just organizing them by date and description is good enough for me, for my purposes. Now this is just kind of the library. If you look up here, there's a bunch of different tabs, I guess you would call them. So this is the library view, where it shows you the picture you have selected in the middle. If you have a whatever folder you have selected on the left, it shows you all the photos down here. You could also do a kind of a matrix view if you like that better. And then if you want to go in and edit it, you actually go over to this other tab called Develop, and then you'll notice, let's edit this photo here. So on Develop, most of your editing controls are on the right here. You'll see a histogram up here, and I actually use that a lot. You kind of want that, at least I do anyway, kind of want that to look sort of like a bell curve. And then down here there's a whole bunch of sliders, and there's a lot of different controls. I have quite a few of them collapsed here, all kinds of color, detail, lens correction, transform effects. The ones I mainly use are cropping, so you can easily crop this. You can change the aspect ratio. So I find that it very convenient, as opposed to Photoshop, where you're mainly either remembering keystrokes or hotkeys, or have to go up to the menu bar and find things. All the controls are right here on the right, and most of them are sliders. So like I can bring down the highlights, bring up the shadows. I can change, my white and black clipping. I can change the overall exposure. And over here keeps a history of all my edits. So you can go back to previous edits, and if you don't like the effect or you want to see what the difference was. So all of those edits are tracked here, and you can take a snapshot. So I just find this really, really intuitive. There's also things like red eye reduction and spot removal. So if I got that size a little. There's some, I'm trying to think if there was some blemish, or you had like dirt on your lens or something, you want to get rid of that spot, you can actually do a spot removal, and it does a pretty good job of figuring out a similar area in the photo that it can replace that with, and it feathers it and all kinds of fancy stuff. So this is the program I use to edit still photos. And that's probably all I really wanted to show you there. Now this is the program I use for video editing. It is called Final Cut Pro. It's only available on Apple products because it's developed by Apple. A similar program would be Adobe Premiere. Both of those are not cheap programs, but we've had Final Cut Pro for probably decades now. And so we really are familiar with it, and that's what we use to edit our videos. Now if you look here, it kind of organizes things differently. You usually have libraries and events and projects, which is kind of a hierarchy there. So you create those, you import all your video, your audio, and if you're bringing in still photos, that's what's in this pane here. So that's basically all the clips I've imported. And this is kind of the preview window, I guess you would call it, where it kind of shows you where you are. Down here is the timeline. So if you're laying out a video, here's what's highlighted here is the video clip. I've got a separate audio clip down here that I've synced together. I overlaid a picture in this spot. And so it's somewhat intuitive. There's a whole lot of features that you can use and get fancy. I usually keep it pretty simple. There are some transitions. I mainly stick to like a cross dissolve or a fade to color transition, but there's all kinds of fancy things you can do. And then when you have something selected over here, there's a kind of an information pane up here on the right that allows you to change some things. And so there's really a whole lot of power here that I probably only use a small fraction of on a regular basis. But it's kind of nice to know it's there if I need it or want it. And since I'm familiar with it, I can use it pretty efficiently, although I'm pretty sure if you've never used a software like this before, it may take you a while to get used to it and figure out how to do things. I mean, you basically drag and drop clips from this pane down to your timeline and how you get things to line up. And so it's a little bit of a learning curve, but I really like using it. So that's all I had for you for today. So thanks for watching, and I hope you found some of this useful. We also have a related blog post that talks about these two, and there's links in the blog post to all the different accessories I talked about. So if you go to the description below this video, you'll see a link to the related blog post, so check that out. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. We'd really appreciate that.
Ta-ta for now.